Fright features were the second style of Ghostbusters released in Kenner's late 80s Real Ghostbusters toy line. Push the heroes' arms towards their bodies and see their face go to a frightened state. The gimmick was awesome, and probably one of the things I remember best as a kid with this line. The only issue was that some of these figures had very fragile parts and were oftentimes easily broken. Finding a loose and functional Peter Venkman figure today is especially challenging. It's more common to find him with only his hair-raising action intact, forcing you to manually move his mouth and eyes up and down, in and out, respectively. The figure I have, unfortunately doesn't have either feature functioning correctly. Can we revive this guy? Okay, so obviously we're going to be addressing his action feature, but his legs are also pretty loose and floppy, so we'll try and tighten them up. We're also going to be addressing a few paint loss areas, but as a whole, I'm not too concerned about paint. In order to get to his innards here, we'll need to break the sonic weld since he doesn't have any screws. This is easily my least favorite part, as a successfully clean break is nearly impossible. To prepare him for this, I applied some heat from a hairdryer and just the slightest bit of pressure from a workbench vise. The rest just takes patience and a small flathead screwdriver. Once he's opened, make sure you keep track of all his pieces. There was a piece moving around inside of him. This was originally connected to the back of his jaw, so that's our first issue. This is the area that would absorb most of, if not all of the tension from his arm getting pushed towards his body, and after having seen this, it's no wonder he couldn't stand much abuse. The other concern is his broken spring that drives his action feature. It appears to have been rusted off into two parts. Not having a replacement spring means we'll try and reuse this one. Taking the first couple curves in the spring and bending them down provides us with a makeshift loop. We'll test this out by attaching his arm over his backbone and then hooking his spring in through the small hole. Our makeshift loop then gets anchored to his groin plug at the bottom. Then we'll slide his back on and test him out. Looks like he works great. There's obviously a little more tension with the spring being shortened, but it does feel fine. Now we need to correct his jaw piece. This is an axle I removed from a broken toy car. It's sturdy, but at the same time, a little malleable. I'm using a pin vise to drill up into the jaw and hopefully replace the original piece with his new piece. It looks like this fits great, so we'll leave the length on here for now and measure for cutting later. Let's test out the figure. Okay, so it looks like I need to shape this just slightly for it to catch a little more efficiently on his backbone. Alright, we'll glue the piece in place and set it aside to dry. While we have the glue out, let's put a small coating on the figure's leg joints. This will hopefully thicken these up and make them feel a little sturdier. Everything's dried and ready to go. First, we'll put the face assembly together. And then carefully add the backbone hairpiece like we did before, but slotting the jaw lever through the opening. Now we can eyeball the length that the lever needs to be, and then make the cut. I didn't put the legs back on until after the back piece was on. It's just one more thing to juggle when the most important part is the working assembly itself. You can sneak the legs on afterwards. The legs feel a little tighter, so I'm definitely happy about that. Looks like he works great, so we're going to glue the weld back together. Again, I'm not too worried about painting everything, but I will touch up his face. It's in no way perfect, but it's definitely an improvement. If you're lucky enough to still have one of these guys in proper working order, you're probably in the minority. So if you're in the majority like me, you might now be more inclined to see what improvements you can make to him yourself.